The discovery of the weapon. Deep within the earth, beneath layers of rock and soil, lay a secret waiting to be uncovered. In a remote research facility, a team of human scientists was on the brink of something extraordinary. Dr. Elena Carter, a passionate archaeologist, led the team with a burning curiosity about ancient civilizations and their lost technologies. For months, they had been digging in an area known for its strange magnetic readings. Today, they felt they were close to a major breakthrough. As the sun rose, casting golden rays through the lab's windows, the team gathered around the central computer. "This could be it," Elena announced, her voice filled with excitement. The monitor displayed a series of unusual readings, signals that had not been detected before. "We're picking up a consistent energy source from below. It's unlike anything we've seen." Her colleague, Dr. Marcus Lee, adjusted his glasses and leaned in closer. "You think it's a power source?" he asked, intrigued. Elena nodded. "It's possible. We need to dig deeper." The team quickly prepared their tools, filled with anticipation and a hint of anxiety. They had no idea what they would find, but their curiosity pushed them forward. Hours passed as they drilled deeper into the ground. The rhythmic sound of the machinery filled the air, echoing through the facility. Suddenly, the drill made a strange noise, followed by a sudden halt. The ground shook slightly, and everyone paused, exchanging nervous glances. "What was that?" asked Sarah, a young engineer, her eyes wide with fear. "Let's check it out," Marcus said, trying to sound brave, though his own heart raced. They gathered their flashlights and helmets, descending into the dark tunnel that opened up beneath the facility. As they moved deeper, the air grew cooler, and an electric charge buzzed around them. It felt alive. Finally, they reached a large cavern, illuminated by their flashlights. In the center stood a massive, circular object that seemed to pulse with energy. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, a blend of technology and ancient design. Strange symbols were carved into its surface, glowing faintly. Elena stepped forward, captivated. This is incredible. It looks like some sort of weapon." "Are you sure?" Marcus asked, moving closer to inspect it. "It could be anything. A power source, a transport device. But a weapon?" Elena traced her fingers over the symbols, her heart racing. "These markings are from an ancient civilization. They may have created this weapon to protect themselves." She could hardly contain her excitement. They had discovered a relic that could change everything. Suddenly, the machine emitted a low hum, vibrating through the ground. The scientists exchanged worried looks. Sarah asked, backing away slightly. "I don't know," Elena replied, glancing at her colleagues. "But we need to figure this out." As if sensing their presence, the weapon began to glow brighter, and the humming intensified. Then, without warning, a shockwave erupted from the machine, sending everyone sprawling back. Dust and debris flew into the air, and the team struggled to regain their footing. "What just happened?" Marcus shouted, brushing dust from his lab coat. Elena looked back at the weapon, now pulsing rhythmically. "I think it's activating." Before they could react, a bright beam of light shot into the sky, piercing through the clouds and lighting up the atmosphere. The scientists watched in awe and fear as the beam expanded, sending a signal that could be seen from space. Elena rushed toward the control panel, trying to assess the situation. "We don't know how. It's beyond anything we can comprehend." As they scrambled to figure out how to contain the energy, unknown to them, the weapon's signal was attracting attention from the stars. Alien civilizations, curious and wary, detected the powerful energy emanating from Earth. Meetings were held in distant worlds as leaders discussed the implications of this newfound threat. Meanwhile, back in the lab, the team tried to stabilize the weapon. Elena worked feverishly, her fingers dancing over the controls. "If we can just redirect the energy," she murmured, lost in thought. Suddenly, the facility's alarms blared, shaking them from their concentration. "We have a breach." "We have a breach," a voice echoed over the intercom. "Someone is trying to break in," Marcus shouted. They quickly gathered their equipment and took defensive positions. The situation had escalated from a discovery to a potential crisis. "Stay alert," Elena commanded, determination in her eyes. "We don't know what's out there, but we must protect our find at all costs." Outside, the world was beginning to change. People looked up at the strange light in the sky, whispering and wondering what it meant. Some felt fear, while others felt a strange sense of hope. What could humanity do with such a powerful weapon? The scene set the stage for an unforeseen adventure that would change the galaxy forever. Little did the scientists know, they had awakened something that would lead to alliances, battles, and a new understanding of what it meant to be human in a universe filled with unknowns. As they prepared for what was to come, one thing was clear: humanity had taken its first step into a larger world, and there was no turning back. The response from beyond. As the bright beam of light shot up into the sky, a ripple of alarm spread across the galaxy. In a distant star system, the Council of the Galactic Alliance gathered in a grand chamber filled with representatives from various civilizations. The atmosphere buzzed with tension as they discussed the sudden emergence of the mysterious energy signal. "Esteemed members, we have received reports of an unknown weapon activating on a primitive planet called Earth," Commander Salax, a tall alien with shimmering blue skin, announced. His voice resonated through the chamber, drawing everyone's attention. "This weapon seems to be a threat to the stability of our galaxy. We must act quickly." "What do we know about this Earth and its inhabitants?" asked Vera, a wise elder from the tree-dwelling race of Thelen. She leaned forward, her long, slender fingers intertwining. "Are they capable of such advanced technology?" "The humans are known for their ingenuity and resilience," Salax replied. "However, their technology is still rudimentary compared to ours. They may not fully understand what they have unleashed." A murmur of concern spread through the chamber. "If they do not control this weapon, it could lead to chaos," said Grath, a muscular warrior from the race of Zarnuk. "We must send a team to investigate and assess the situation." "I agree," Vera said, nodding. "But we must also be cautious. The humans could be fearful and unpredictable. We should approach them with care." Back on Earth, the team at the research facility was in full crisis mode. The weapon continued to emit its powerful beam, drawing energy from the environment and creating an unstable situation. As alarms blared and red lights flashed, Elena and her colleagues struggled to regain control. "We can't let this get out of hand," Sarah shouted, her voice barely audible over the chaos. "What if it attracts more attention than we can handle?" "Then we need to figure out how to stabilize it," Marcus replied, frantically typing on the control panel. "I think we can redirect the energy flow, but we need time." Just then, the ground shook violently. The weapon seemed to respond to the growing tension, sending out tremors that rattled the facility. The team exchanged worried glances, realizing that they were running out of options. "We need to evacuate the building," Elena decided, her voice firm. "If we can't control it, we must get everyone to safety." As the team rushed to evacuate, the atmosphere outside was thick with confusion. Citizens of the nearby town had gathered, looking up at the strange light illuminating the sky. Some pointed in awe, while others expressed fear. Rumors spread quickly, and a sense of panic began to rise. Meanwhile, the Galactic Alliance made their decision. A small team of elite diplomats and scientists would be dispatched to Earth to assess the situation, and, if necessary, take control of the weapon. Among them was Lyra, a brilliant xenobiologist known for her compassion and understanding of different cultures. As the team prepared to leave their starship, Lyra addressed her fellow travelers. "We are going into unknown territory," she said, her voice calm yet assertive. "Our goal is to communicate with the humans, to understand them and their intentions. We must approach this with empathy, not aggression." The others nodded in agreement, knowing the importance of her words. They boarded their ship, ready for the journey to Earth. As they entered hyperspace, the stars around them blurred into streaks of light. Back on Earth, Elena and her team were in the middle of chaos. They had managed to evacuate most of the facility, but the weapon's energy continued to pulse, causing structural damage. The team gathered outside, watching in disbelief as the brilliant beam of light stretched across the sky. "What if the aliens come for the weapon?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "What if they see us as a threat?" Elena shook her head, trying to calm her fears. "We don't know what their intentions are. We have to focus on controlling the weapon first." Suddenly, a low rumble echoed in the distance. The team turned to see a sleek, silver ship descending from the clouds, its engines glowing. Panic surged through them as they realized it was not of earthly design. "It's them," Marcus shouted. "The aliens are here." The ship landed gracefully on the ground, creating a small cloud of dust. The team watched in awe and fear as a hatch opened, and a group of aliens emerged. They were tall and slender, their skin shimmering in shades of green and blue. They moved with an elegance that made them appear almost ethereal. Elena took a step forward, her heart racing. "We need to communicate," she whispered to her team. "We can't let fear control us." As the aliens approached, Lyra stepped forward, sensing the tension in the air. "We come in peace," she said, her voice soothing. "We are here to help you understand what you have uncovered." Elena felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this was an opportunity to learn and collaborate rather than fight. She nodded, encouraging her team to remain calm. The aliens exchanged glances, sensing the anxiety of the humans. Lyra continued, "We have detected the energy emanating from your weapon. It poses a risk not only to your planet, but to the galaxy as well. We need to work together to stabilize it." Elena felt a surge of determination. "We need your help," she replied, stepping forward. "We don't know how to control it, but together, we might be able to find a solution." As the two groups faced each other, the tension began to ease. What had started as a chaotic and fearful situation was transforming into a moment of collaboration. Perhaps this was the beginning of an unexpected alliance, one that could change the course of history for both humans and aliens. Little did they know that the path ahead would be filled with challenges and discoveries as they sought to understand not only the weapon but each other. As they stood together, united by a common goal, they began to realize the power of cooperation and the potential for peace in a galaxy filled with uncertainty. The alliance forged. The air was thick with anticipation as humans and aliens stood side by side, united by a shared goal. Lyra took a deep breath, sensing the weight of the moment. "Let's start by gathering information about the weapon," she suggested, her eyes scanning the group. "We need to understand how it operates before we can stabilize it." Elena nodded, feeling a rush of excitement mixed with apprehension. "We can show you our control room. That's where we first discovered its power." She led the way, her heart pounding as she glanced back at the aliens. They were both mesmerizing and intimidating, their sleek forms shimmering under the bright sky. As they entered the facility, the atmosphere shifted. The control room was filled with blinking lights and buzzing consoles. The humans had worked tirelessly to monitor the weapon's energy output, but it was clear they needed help. Here, Elena pointed to a large screen displaying chaotic graphs and data streams. "This shows the energy levels fluctuating. We've tried to stabilize it, but it keeps growing stronger." Lyra studied the screen closely, her keen eyes absorbing the information. "Interesting," she murmured. "The energy signature resembles a form of resonance we've encountered before. It's volatile, but can be harnessed." "Can you help us?" Marcus asked, his voice tinged with desperation. "We don't want to destroy anything, but if this keeps up, we might not have a choice." "Of course," Lyra replied, her tone reassuring. "But we need to work together. If we can combine our knowledge, we might stabilize it before it's too late." As the two groups began to collaborate, a sense of camaraderie developed. Humans explained their technology, while the aliens shared their advanced understanding of energy manipulation. The tension that once filled the air began to dissipate, replaced by a growing trust. Hours passed as they worked side by side. The humans were amazed at the aliens' abilities. With a simple gesture, Lyra could manipulate energy flows, and soon, she demonstrated how to redirect the weapon's power safely. Elena watched in awe as the aliens moved gracefully around the control room, their hands weaving through the air as they channeled energy. "How do you do that?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "It's a technique we have honed over generations," Lyra explained. "We connect with the energy around us, understanding its flow. With practice, you will learn to do the same." As they worked, the humans and aliens shared stories of their worlds. The aliens spoke of their home planets, filled with vibrant colors and unique life forms. In turn, the humans shared their struggles and triumphs, discussing their history and the challenges they faced. During a break, Marcus approached Lyra. "Why do you think the weapon activated now?" he asked. "We've had it for years without issue." Lyra paused, contemplating. "Perhaps it was a reaction to something in your environment, an event or a disturbance in the energy around it. These weapons are often designed to amplify their surroundings, responding to the energy present." "Could it attract attention from other alien races?" Marcus asked, a hint of worry in his voice. "It is possible," Lyra replied. "That's why we must act quickly to stabilize it. If others sense its power, they may come to investigate. We want to avoid conflict at all costs." As the hours turned into a full day, the team made significant progress. The weapon's energy levels began to stabilize under their joint efforts, and hope blossomed among the humans. The prospect of an alliance with these aliens could lead to new discoveries and advancements. However, just as they felt they were gaining control, an alarm blared through the facility. Red lights flashed as a warning message appeared on the screens. "Unauthorized ships detected," shouted one of the technicians, panic evident in their voice. "They're approaching fast." Elena's heart sank. "What do we do?" "Everyone, to your stations," Lyra commanded, her demeanor shifting into one of calm authority. "We must be prepared to defend this facility. We cannot allow the weapon to fall into the wrong hands." The team scrambled, the atmosphere charged with urgency. The aliens quickly coordinated with the humans, sharing strategies and forming defensive positions. It was a rush of activity, and for the first time, the humans realized they were not alone in facing this threat. As the ships drew closer, Elena caught a glimpse of them through the control room's windows. They were sleek, menacing vessels, clearly designed for battle. She turned to Lyra, who was monitoring the screens intently. "Who are they?" Elena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "They may belong to a race that seeks power and domination," Lyra replied, her expression serious. "We must protect the weapon at all costs." Just then, the lead ship sent out a transmission, crackling over the control room speakers. "Earthlings, stand down and surrender the weapon. You are outmatched." A tense silence filled the room. Elena felt a mix of fear and anger rise within her. "We won't surrender," she shouted, surprising herself. "We have the right to defend our home." Lyra turned to her, a flicker of admiration in her eyes. "We will fight together," she affirmed. "The bond we formed is our strength. Together, we are stronger than they can imagine." As the alien ships approached, the humans and aliens prepared for the confrontation ahead. They knew this was not just a fight for the weapon, but a battle for their very survival and the future of their newfound alliance. With determination in their hearts, they stood united, ready to face whatever came next. The stakes were high, and as the tension mounted, they realized that their choices would shape the future for both humanity and the galaxy beyond. The battle begins. The atmosphere in the control room was thick with tension as the ships drew nearer. The humans and aliens had gathered around the main screen, where blips of the approaching vessels flickered ominously. Elena felt her heart race as she exchanged worried glances with Marcus and the other humans. "Prepare for impact," Lyra commanded, her voice steady despite the urgency of the situation. She took a position at one of the consoles, quickly running calculations. We need to shield the weapon at all costs. If they get their hands on it, the consequences could be disastrous. Alina and the others moved swiftly, following Lyra's lead. They had already learned to trust her expertise, and in this moment, her calm demeanor became their anchor. Activate the defensive shields, Marcus shouted, his hands flying over the controls. The hum of energy filled the air as the shields enveloped the facility, casting a protective glow around them. The screen displayed the lid ship, dark and menacing, sending out another transmission. Earthlings, you have 10 seconds to comply. We do not wish to destroy you, but we will if necessary. Suddenly, the lights flickered as alarms blared. They are launching boarding pods, shouted a technician, panic creeping into their voice. The pods shot towards the facility, small and fast, their metallic surfaces glinting ominously. Everyone to your stations. Lyra barked, prepare to defend the control room. We must hold our ground. The humans and aliens quickly organized themselves, creating a barrier of bodies and equipment to protect the critical areas. Lyra directed them with precision, assigning roles to each person based on their strengths. The aliens, with their advanced weaponry, prepared to defend alongside the humans, who were fueled by a determination they had never felt before. As the first boarding pod crashed into the facility, it exploded outward, sending a shockwave through the room. Smoke filled the air as figures emerged, armed and aggressive. Here they come, Marcus shouted, raising his weapon. The humans were ready, adrenaline surging through their veins. The battle erupted. The aliens moved with fluid grace, using their technology to disarm the intruders. Lyra, her eyes fierce, wielded her energy weapon with skill, redirecting blasts and sending shocks of energy into the enemy ranks. The humans fought with equal fervor, inspired by their new allies. Alina found herself dodging behind equipment, firing her weapon with precision. She couldn't believe how quickly everything had escalated. One moment they were working to stabilize the weapon, and now they were fighting for their lives. Focus on the control room, Lyra yelled, rallying everyone around her. If they reach it, they will access the weapon's systems. The intruders pushed forward, but the Alliance held strong. The humans used their knowledge of the facility's layout to set traps and ambushes, while the aliens employ their energy manipulation to create barriers and blast the attackers back. Amidst the chaos, Alina spotted a group of aliens advancing toward the control room. Their weapons crackled with energy, and they moved with a confidence that inspired her. She followed their lead, darting out to help cover their flanks. The fighting intensified, the air thick with smoke and sounds of blasts and shouts. The humans and aliens fought side by side, their skills complementing each other perfectly. Just when it seemed they were gaining ground, another wave of attackers flooded into the room, overwhelming their defenses. Hold the line, Marcus shouted, his voice barely audible above the din. Alina felt her strength waning as she reloaded her weapon. She glanced at Lyra, who was standing at the forefront of the battle, fearlessly directing everyone. The aliens were skilled, but there were just too many of the attackers. We need to push them back, Lyra called, her eyes blazing with determination. Now, with a surge of adrenaline, the Alliance regrouped, moving together as one. They pressed forward, determined to reclaim their territory. The aliens unleashed a wave of energy that rippled through the room, pushing back the attackers. Alina felt the power of the energy wash over her, giving her renewed strength. She moved with purpose, her mind focused on the enemy ahead. She spotted a group trying to breach the control room and charged at them, her weapon raised high. "Let's go," she yelled, and the aliens flanked her, creating a wall of defense as they advanced. The battle raged on, and slowly they began to turn the tide. The intruders, realizing they were outmatched, began to falter. Lyra led the charge, her energy weapon a brilliant display of power as she fired at the remaining attackers. One by one, The intruders began to retreat. The Alliance pressed on, pushing them back through the facility, fighting for every inch. Finally, with a final surge of determination, they'd managed to force the last of the attackers out, sealing the entrance behind them. Panting and covered in sweat, Alina looked around at the control room, now scared from the battle. The humans and aliens exchanged glances, their eyes reflecting a mixture of disbelief and relief. They had done it. Lyra stepped forward, her expression a mix of pride and concern. "We fought bravely, but this is only the beginning. They will return, and we must prepare ourselves for what's to come." Alina nodded, her heart still racing. "We need to strengthen our defenses and learn more about our enemies." The group huddled together, beginning to strategize. The battle had forged an unbreakable bond between them, a realization that together they could face any challenge. As the dust settled, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were no longer just humans and aliens. They were allies, ready to face the storm that lay ahead. A new alliance. The aftermath of the battle left the facility in ruins, but it also forged something stronger among the survivors. They were no longer just humans and aliens. They were allies, united against a common enemy. In the days following the attack, the mood in the control room shifted from one of despair to determination. Alina stood with Lyra, Marcus, and a few other key members of their newfound alliance. They gathered around a holographic display, the flickering images revealing information about the enemy forces they had just encountered. "We need to understand who we're up against," Lyra said, her voice steady but urgent. "These attackers didn't just happen upon us. They were organized and well-equipped. We must learn more about their motivations and capabilities." Marcus leaned closer to the hologram, squinting at the data. "It looks like they belong to a larger coalition of species. The Galactic are notorious for their brutality. They've been expanding their territory by force for years." Alina felt a chill run down her spine. "But why target us? We're just a small planet. What do they want with Earth?" Lyra's gaze turned serious. "They believe that humanity possesses unique qualities and technologies they cannot replicate. This is why they see us as a threat, and why we must be cautious. They may come again." As they delved deeper into the information, a plan began to form. They decided to send out scouts to gather intelligence on enemy movements. Meanwhile, they would fortify their defenses and start training together, blending human ingenuity with alien technology. Days turned into weeks, and the alliance grew stronger. Alina trained alongside her alien counterparts, learning their fighting styles and techniques. She marveled at their agility and skill, finding ways to incorporate their methods into her own approach. Marcus and Lyra worked tirelessly on strengthening the facility's defenses, using the technology they had salvaged from the battle. The control room became a hive of activity, with engineers and scientists collaborating to develop new strategies and weapons. As time went on, their relationship evolved into something more than just a partnership. It became a friendship. They shared stories of their worlds, their cultures, and their hopes for the future. The barriers that once separated them began to fade away, replaced by a bond forged in adversity. One evening, as the group gathered for a rare moment of relaxation, Alina found herself sitting next to Lyra. They were watching the stars from a small observation deck outside the facility. "Do you ever miss your home?" Alina asked softly, breaking the comfortable silence. Lyra gazed at the sky, her expression contemplative. "Sometimes, I miss the beauty of my world, the familiar sounds of nature. But I also find beauty here, among you and the others. We are creating something new together." Alina smiled, warmed by her words. "I never imagined I would be fighting alongside aliens, let alone forming friendships with them. It's strange, but it feels right." Lyra turned to her, a spark of understanding in her eyes. "This alliance could change everything, not just for us, but for all of humanity. Together, we can stand against those who wish to harm us. We must not let fear dictate our actions." The conversation turned to plans for the future. They discussed how to build alliances with other species who might also be at risk from the Galactic. The more they talked, the clearer it became that their fight was not just for survival. It was about forging a future where all beings could coexist peacefully. The next day, the Alliance set their plan into motion. They dispatched teams to other nearby planets, reaching out to any species that might share their struggle. Belina felt a thrill of excitement at the thought of meeting new allies, and she was eager to share their story of resilience and determination. Weeks passed, and the Alliance began to bear fruit. They received messages from various planets, expressing solidarity and a desire to join the fight against the Galactic. Each new ally brought unique strengths and perspectives, enriching their growing coalition. However, there was also concern. The Galactic were not idle. They were regrouping and preparing for their next move. Lyra and Marcus remained vigilant, constantly monitoring enemy activity and fortifying their defenses. One fateful day, the control room lit up with alerts. Enemy ships were detected approaching Earth. "Everyone to your stations," Marcus shouted, adrenaline flooding the room. Elena felt a surge of determination wash over her. She had trained hard for this moment, and she would not let fear take over. The time had come to prove their strength. As they prepared for battle, Lyra turned to the group, her eyes fierce. "We stand together, as allies and as friends. We will fight for our future." With a unified battle cry, they moved into position, ready to face the enemy once more. The bond they had forged, strengthened by their shared experiences, would serve as their greatest weapon. In that moment, Elena understood. They were not just defending Earth. They were standing for all who had ever been oppressed. Together, they would fight, and together, they would prevail. The battle for Earth. The air crackled with tension as the alert sirens blared throughout the facility. Belina and her allies stood poised for action, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Each member of the Alliance had their own role to play, but they were all united in a common purpose: to protect Earth from the encroaching Galactic forces. Elena moved to her designated station, a mix of fear and adrenaline coursing through her veins. She glanced around at her allies, Lyra, Marcus, and others, who were checking their weapons and adjusting their gear. The camaraderie they had built over the past weeks was palpable, each person aware that their fates were intertwined. Scanners show multiple enemy ships on approach. Marcus called out, his eyes glued to the screens displaying tactical readouts. "They're coming in fast." Lyra, at the weapons console, swiftly adjusted the targeting systems. "We need to take out their command ship first. It's the heart of their operation. If we can disable it, we might disrupt their attack." Elena nodded, her determination solidifying. "Let's do it." The moment arrived. The facility's defenses were activated, and the hum of energy filled the air. The ground trembled slightly as the massive energy cannons powered up, aimed at the sky. Outside, the sky darkened with the shadows of incoming ships, their sleek forms glinting ominously against the fading light. "Enemy ships in range," shouted one of the technicians, "firing on your mark." "Fire," Marcus commanded, his voice cutting through the din. The air erupted with blinding flashes of light as the cannons unleashed their power. Explosions rocked the atmosphere as beams of energy streaked toward the incoming fleet. Elena watched, her breath caught in her throat, as some enemy ships disintegrated in bursts of flame and debris. Direct hits, they're taking heavy damage. Lyra cheered, a fierce smile spreading across her face. But the victory was short-lived. More Galactic ships surged forward, their formations shifting as they countered the attack. "They're regrouping." "Incoming missiles," warned Marcus, his tone shifting to urgency. "Defensive shields up," Elena shouted, activating the protective barriers around the facility. The shield flickered to life, enveloping them in a shimmering dome. The missiles struck the shield with tremendous force, sending ripples of energy through the air. Elena felt the impact reverberate in her bones, but the shield held. "We need to maintain the shield while targeting their ships," she urged. Lyra quickly recalibrated their weapons, unlocking onto the lid ship, preparing to fire. As the countdown began, Alina focused on the task at hand. Each second felt like an eternity, the pressure mounting as the Galactic advanced relentlessly. "We have to hold them off until our allies arrive," she reminded everyone. Suddenly, a series of explosions erupted in the sky, and the scanner showed a familiar fleet joining the fray. "Our allies have arrived," Marcus announced, relief washing over the group. The sight of ships from various planets, each representing their unique designs and technologies, filled Alina with hope. They joined the fight, firing at the Galactic ships from multiple angles. "Now, let's push them back," Marcus shouted, rallying everyone's spirits. Alina and her team focused their firepower, and the tide began to turn. The combined strength of their forces overwhelmed the Galactic, whose ships started to falter. Explosions lit up the sky as they lost more and more vessels. But the battle was far from over. In the midst of chaos, a massive Galactic command ship emerged, its dark silhouette blocking out the sun. It was heavily armored and armed, a clear indication of its importance. "Focus everything we have on that ship," Lyra commanded, her eyes fierce with determination. "If we take it down, we can end this fight." As they prepared to fire, the Galactic ship unleashed a volley of missiles toward the facility. Alina felt her heart drop. "Shields," she shouted, knowing they would need every ounce of strength to survive. The defensive shields flickered as they absorbed the blasts, but Alina could see the energy reserves depleting rapidly. "We have to make this count," she insisted. "Firing," Lyra said, her voice steady despite the chaos. The energy beam shot forth, striking the command ship with blinding intensity. The ship shuddered, but it remained functional. "Again," Marcus shouted, and the team fired once more, determined to break through the Galactic's defenses. The command ship's shields flickered, but they held strong. In a desperate move, the Galactic retaliated, targeting the source of the attack. "They're aiming for us," a technician warned, panic rising in the control room. Alina braced herself, knowing that they were at a critical juncture. "We have to concentrate our fire on that ship. It's the key to turning the tide." With renewed vigor, the team focused all their efforts on the command ship, pouring everything they had into the assault. The energy beams collided with the enemy ship, lighting up the sky in a dazzling display of power. As the command ship began to falter, the other Galactic vessels lost their coordination. "It's working," Lyra exclaimed. "They're losing their grip." Just then, a massive explosion rocked the command ship, and it began to break apart. "Yes, we did it," Marcus shouted, a wide grin spreading across his face. But their victory was short-lived. In the confusion, a lone Galactic fighter broke through their lines and targeted the control room. "Watch out," Alina screamed, her heart racing as she spotted the incoming missile. With seconds to spare, Marcus activated the emergency shield, but it was too late. The missile struck, sending shockwaves through the facility. The world around Alina spun as alarms blared. Smoke filled the air, and chaos erupted. "Everyone, get to the emergency exits," she yelled, trying to keep her composure. As they scrambled to safety, Alina felt a mixture of fear and determination. They had fought hard, but they were not out of the woods yet. The battle was ongoing, and they had to regroup. Through the chaos, she caught a glimpse of Lyra, who was helping an injured ally. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Alina knew they would find a way through this together. As the fight continued outside, the spirit of their alliance burned brightly. United, they would confront any challenge that lay ahead, ready to stand against the darkness. With a deep breath, Alina steeled herself for what was to come. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and they would face it together. The final stand. The control room was in chaos. Smoke billowed from the damaged walls, and alarms blared incessantly. Alina coughed as she moved through the haze, adrenaline pumping through her veins. She had seen her comrades injured, but they had no time to dwell on it now. The battle for Earth was reaching its climax, and she had to stay focused. Is everyone accounted for? She shouted over the cacophony, scanning the room for familiar faces. Marcus emerged from the smoke, his expression grim but determined. Most of us made it. We have to regroup and plan our next move. Lyra, still at her weapons console, was rapidly assessing the situation. The Galactic are on the retreat, but they're not done yet. Their main fleet is still in the fight. If we don't capitalize on this moment, they could regroup and strike back harder. Elena nodded, taking a deep breath to steady her racing heart. We need to push them back while they're disoriented. What's the status on our energy reserves? Low, Marcus replied. But we can still make one last offensive. If we coordinate with our allies, we can strike at the heart of their forces. Then let's do it, Elena declared, her voice steady. We're not letting Earth fall into their hands. As the team prepared for the final assault, Elena gathered her thoughts. They had come so far, facing overwhelming odds, and now, standing together, they could turn the tide. She felt the strength of her comrades around her, the unyielding spirit of humanity and their allies giving her courage. Let's get on the comms with the other ships, she instructed Marcus. We need everyone on the same page. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the faces of their allies, a mix of species, each ready to fight for the cause. This is our chance, Elena said, addressing them all. The Galactic are vulnerable right now. We need to launch a coordinated attack on their main fleet. We fight together, or we fall separately. The voices of agreement filled the comms, each ally pledging their support. The determination in their eyes sparked something deep within her. Together, they would show the Galactic that Earth and its allies were not to be underestimated. Prepare for launch, Elena commanded, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. We fight for our home, for our future. With renewed energy, they moved into position. The remaining fighters, their hulls battered but still operational, lined up alongside their ally ships. The sight of the diverse fleet, each vessel uniquely designed, each pilot filled with purpose, filled Elena with hope. On my mark, she called out, her heart racing. 3, 2, 1, launch. The ship shot forward, engines roaring, leaving the facility behind. The battlefield stretched out before them, chaos and destruction painting the once peaceful skies. The Galactic fleet loomed ahead, their dark ships contrasting against the shimmering colors of the Allied vessels. As they closed in, Elena felt a mix of fear and determination. This was it, the moment they had fought for. Let's show them what we're made of. Elena and her team engaged, dodging incoming fire as they pressed forward. The energy beams lit up the darkness, illuminating the path ahead. The Galactic ships returned fire, but the Allies moved as one cohesive unit, expertly weaving through the chaos. Focus fire on the command ship, Lyra shouted, her fingers flying over the controls. Elena felt the rush of adrenaline as they targeted the heart of the enemy fleet. In a concerted effort, the Allied forces unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, striking the command ship with devastating force. The impact sent shockwaves through the air, and the ship trembled under the assault. It's working. Keep firing, Elena urged. But the Galactic were not going down easily. Their remaining ships regrouped, forming a defensive perimeter around the command ship. They're trying to protect their leader, Marcus exclaimed, his eyes wide with determination. Elena glanced at the scanners, her mind racing. If we can break through their defenses, we can finish this. With a fierce resolve, she pushed forward, leading the charge. Everyone, follow my lead. We're breaking through. The Allied forces rallied behind her, a wave of determination sweeping through the fleet. They pressed on, dodging enemy fire and retaliating with every ounce of strength they had left. Suddenly, a massive explosion lit up the battlefield, and the Galactic command ship was engulfed in flames. Direct hit, Lyra shouted, her voice ringing with triumph. But there was no time to celebrate. The remaining Galactic ships retaliated, their desperation leading to frantic attacks. "Watch out!" Marcus yelled as a Galactic fighter broke through their lines, heading straight for them. Elena maneuvered her ship, barely avoiding the incoming blast. "We can't let them regroup," she yelled, her heart pounding. "Keep pushing." The battle raged on, each moment filled with chaos and confusion. The Allies fought valiantly, but the Galactic were relentless, attacking with every ounce of strength they had left. With one last surge of power, Elena and her team focused their fire on the remaining Galactic ships. Energy beams sliced through the darkness, striking down the enemy forces one by one. As the dust settled, Elena couldn't believe her eyes. The Galactic command ship lay in ruins, and the remaining enemy ships were in full retreat. Cheers erupted from the comms as their allies celebrated the victory. "We did it!" Marcus exclaimed, disbelief washing over him. "We actually did it." Elena felt a wave of relief wash over her, but it was tinged with exhaustion. The battle had been fierce, and many had sacrificed so much. "We need to regroup and assess the damage," she said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. As they maneuvered back toward the facility, Elena reflected on the struggle they had faced. Humanity and its allies had stood together against an overwhelming threat, proving that they would not be easily defeated. The fight for Earth was over for now, but the bonds they had forged during this battle would last a lifetime. Together, they had faced insurmountable odds and emerged victorious. With a deep breath, Elena prepared to face the future. The galaxy was vast and filled with challenges, but she knew one thing for certain: humanity and its allies were ready for whatever lay ahead. United, they would stand tall, facing the unknown with courage and determination.